So I want us to talk about our first meeting because you were in the program a semester before me, right?
Yes.
So talk about what it's like. Because I remember in the interviews, it was a
hmm
couple black folks in the interviews.
Oh,
And
okay.
then like a couple. When I say a couple, I mean like one, two, three, maybe three.
There was only one other one in my interview.
Oh,
And
really?
yes, and she stayed clear away from me. I
Oh,
was
what
like,
is that
okay.
like?
Look, I was like, I am not trying to compete with you in the sea of not us. Like,
That is so interesting.
it was very interesting.
Yeah.
Clear
So
away.
I'm trying to remember because I just remember it was just a whole bunch of folks, like just
hmm
a whole bunch of folks, and there was just a couple black. Like I remember it's me and maybe a couple other folks. I think it was one more woman. But then the folks that came in the cohort, it was just me.
Okay,
I
yeah.
remember it just being me being in that cohort.
Yeah. No, that was a similar experience for me because it was, I think there were 100 people at the, um, during doing the interviews, with me. And yeah, there's one other black person, um, and never saw her again. So I don't know. And then by the time I got into the program, yeah, it was just me. I didn't know that there were other black people outside of the professors. Um, I was like, maybe this is
Maybe
it.
this is it.
So that whole semester, yeah, I mean, I will say it was also kind of rough because that's also when I had my multicultural class. And my professor for that class was black. Loved her, loved her. She was awesome. And then that was it. And so that class was tough too because I remember they basically, the literature assumes that that you are a non-melanated person who will be working with different cultures. Uh, and I remember that, and then it also like had a chapter on each culture. And so for Black people, it was a chapter on Black Americans, and it was basically like all Black Americans are poor. So you gotta be careful when you work with. That was, I'm sure it spoke a little bit more, but it didn't talk about anything systemically. It didn't talk about the intergenerational things. Like, it also stereotyped the family system of like, not a lot of two-parent. Like, it was all just stereotypes written in that chapter, which was upsetting to me. So I'm grateful that my professor of that class was black because she understood my gripes, and it's just, it was part of the curriculum, for the exam.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so imagine my relief when I saw you
What
second
class?
semester.
What class was it that we first? Because after that class, we started having lots of classes together.
We did. Was it was it Dr. Allen's class? Like, was it the family systems class?
I
I think
think it
it
was
was.
family systems. We had family systems together. We had
Yeah.
sex therapy together.
Yeah.
Um, the other couple, like couple something, I don't know.
Yeah. After that, I feel like, yeah, we had most classes together. And then we definitely did like we had our internship together.
Mm-hmm.
Um yeah. But yeah, so no, when I saw you, it was like a breath of fresh air. I was like and then to find out that you did hair too, because I could not find I was like,
Look, I got the Emma hustle.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean the thing is that seeing you when we had the family systems, we sat together. We ended up sitting together,
Mm,
and just having that class together, it felt. I will remember. I remember us sex therapy when we had that guest, and he was talking about fetishes, and he says something about the woman being articulate and all these other things,
Yes.
and like the way he described this black woman was so stereotypical, and I said something, and like you like kind of like leaned over and was like, thank you, I'm so glad you said something. But the whole thing is that when saying something though, you risk everybody like kind of like gaslighting you
You
and
do.
saying, oh, it's not that.
Right. It's not that deep. It's not,
It's
why
not
does
that. That's
everything
not what
have
I
to be
meant.
about?
That's not what
Right.
I would say that about anybody.
Right.
Yeah, and it was also, I remember in the other class where it was Dr. Allen's class, and it was the family systems class, I think, and Lynn had said something. Lynn was, remember
Yes.
Lynn, she was
I
also a
loved
black woman in
her.
our program,
Yeah.
and she said
Yeah.
something about her work or something, and then somebody else gaslighted her because they
Yeah.
worked in the same like field or company or something like
Yes.
that, and then Lynn started crying, and then
Yes.
I spoke up, and then everybody like gaslit me into
Yeah.
to like, because I was pointing out that we're just, how can we talk about being socially responsible and socially conscious, and in that word it was like what social, it was culturally competent, which I hated that
Yes.
term then, but
Yes.
culturally competent, and then we are perpetuating the same thing.
Right.
Oh no, Lynn didn't start
Because it
crying.
was it
No,
about spirituality?
I don't remember. I don't remember, but I do know that it wasn't Lynn who cried. It was the woman who gaslit Lynn, and I pointed that out, and
Yes.
she started crying because she didn't want to be seen as someone who was perpetuating harm. And so
Right.
then when she started crying, that I was informed
Yes.
that I should that I should not take it as serious, but just that I should just be more mindful.
Right.
When I had
You
presented it
should
in a
course
very
correct. Right.
yeah,
No,
I
100%.
was I had presented it very respectful, and I wasn't like
Yeah.
condemning. I was just pointing out a pattern and a habit, which that's what I do in my work anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And they weren't having it.
Mm-mm. No. No. And that's so funny that I leaned over and said thank you. That totally makes sense because I think that feeling of isolation up until that point, and then to yeah, being there with you and have you speaking up, which I still appreciate you doing because I at that time was not in that space. I had that like, oh, like you gotta, like work quietly, don't let them see how good you're doing or they'll take it from you. So, like keep your head down. Like that was kind of, and so that also helped me to be like, wait a minute, that's not what we're here for because hello, how are we gonna help our people? And not speak up
Yeah.
um in those moments. No, yeah. But when I saw you, I was like, we're gonna be friends.
I knew too. That's why I sat next to you, like, hey, girl.
Yeah.
Sometimes though, I like sit quietly and observe and kind of like gauge where folks are. But no,
Yeah.
I sat next to you, like, hey, hey. And then slowly
Yeah.
we talk to each other and laugh, and then
Yeah.
yeah, I'm grateful that we were able to meet each other in that way, because I mean, if that program wasn't there, we probably wouldn't, because you're
Mm-hmm.
from a totally different place than I'm from, right? I'm all the way
Mm-hmm.
from Michigan. You're all
Mm-hmm.
the way from Florida,
Yes.
right? So that is kind of hard to, like, we wouldn't have met, our paths wouldn't have met because of that. I mean, if that
Yeah.
didn't exist, and then here we are creating amazing things.
Exactly. Yes, and to be so aligned even then in sort of like our view of who we wanted to help and why. And then
Hmm.
having our individual journeys of, like um helping specifically Black couples for all those years and then coming back to say, okay, here's how we can actually even better support them together is
Yeah.
actually amazing. Yeah.
I mean, and the thing is just randomly calling each other like, hey, let me vent to you. This counseling thing is hard. This couples counseling thing is hard. I'm noticing a pattern here.
Exactly.
And we're noticing the same pattern.
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, oh, we know what the issue is. There's no
Right.
premarital work here.
There's no premarital work here. And too, like recognizing that a lot of the things we're running into, we weren't taught in grad school. So yeah, being able to create that then ourselves out of the need. Because yeah, there's no premarital work here, and there's no like unlearning of the necessary things that have to be unlearned to be in relationship, like letting go of the hyper individual, um, things that we've internalized out of survival, to create that, co-create the space needed to have a thriving marriage.
Yeah, definitely. That's definitely something we're not taught. Even just we learn the basics, and then we like get thrown out into the world, and we're therapists in training, and then we're a therapist. But still, the one thing that I think would be helpful is understanding how to support couples before they get into marriage.
Yeah.
Because it's such a, and the thing is that you don't know. It took me being married to realize as well, like, wow, there's this journey that not many people get support with. There's this like transition that couples go through. And it's like, although when you're dating, you're like, okay, we're committed. We have a commitment. We have this. But then when you get married, it's like, no, like, this is what really commitment means. Like, I just can't get mad and storm out.
Right.
And say, I'm done. You, like, have to learn how to work through the challenges. And I think that's what we face the most, is that couples, and for a lack of a better word, felt stuck to the commitment.
Yes.
But they were also, I say this with love, but stubborn in their ways. Like, no, it's going to be this way because this is how it's supposed to be. Not understanding that marriage requires something more than how you behave as a single person.
Exactly. That, and there's no right way to do it. So, like, what informed your view of marriage? Was it people around you? Was it media? Like, I remember I had a client one time tell me that they learned about relationships from watching Real Housewives and, like, Flavor Flav. I was like, well, this makes sense. Like, that's like those kinds of like, like, I mean, granted, obviously that's not like, I don't think everybody's learning, but I mean, I think that those reality TV shows do capture people's attention, for these reasons, because of like the dynamics and things. But also some of those things can seep in even too, to like, oh yeah, this is how a marriage should be. Like, this is how, and then when it's not like that, then okay, then this isn't for me. Instead of learning how to, like, how do you navigate that shift, the mindset shift?
Yeah. Yeah, I think this, when I used to do the Dating Intentionally workshop, when I used to do that, I think that, and I'm going to just speak for the ladies because that's, we're women, right? We had this list of like, okay, when I get married, he is going to be like this, X, Y, and Z. He's going to look like this. He's going to behave this way. He's going to have these things. So we have this whole list. And the whole time we're trying to find someone to play this role of a human that we created out of nowhere. Yes. And we don't think, like, what shapes this list?
Right.
We just have the list.
Yeah.
And so then we find someone who plays the role really well. But then once you get married, over time, either the person's going to say, I don't want to play this role anymore.
Right.
Or two, they're going to say, I've never been this role. You've tried to
Exactly.
force me into this role.
Right.
Or the other thing is that she's going to look at the list and she's going to say, you need to be like this, and you need to be like
Yeah.
that. And you need to, and
Right.
so those
And
are
keep
also,
trying to mold and change. Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
And so then what happens is that then when you're on the side of marriage, you're like, I don't know if marriage is for me because
Mhm.
he's not like this and they're not like this. They need to be like
Mhm.
this. It's not how I envisioned it.
Mhm. Yes. Yes. It makes me think of too, and I feel like seeing this, I see this in my work, but also like I've seen this just in general too, in terms of, you know, I think that sometimes we're not all that honest with ourselves.
Mm.
Like, especially before marriage, I think that there are some people who are, and that's great. Like, uh, but I think in terms of the dynamics that you're describing of like trying to either mold someone or having the list and, um, I think that there is a lack of honesty sometimes of, first of all, self-honesty of who am I really? And
Mm.
is this actually what I need? And also, say I'm asking for someone who's honest, who's, we're here communicative a lot. Like, I just want you to communicate, so like all of those things. Am I those things? Do I model those things well? And so I think there's that part, but then I also think too that there's also a lack of honesty around, um, or I think that lack of self-honesty makes it hard then to even be honest about what we even truly desire in relationships. I think that we don't always realize how, to your point earlier, what things shape what we say we want,
Mm-hmm.
and how that may not actually be what we really want, and we may not have even taken the time to like explore that, and to be honest enough with ourselves to see that. And I think about like, I can give an example because I've heard this a lot, of like, uh, a woman who's maybe a go-getter, super ambitious, high earner, um, and marry someone who maybe is, more of a dreamer, doesn't have that, doesn't need to like earn, like a certain amount, is okay. Um, you know, um, like money isn't a driver, more of
Mm-hmm.
a dreamer. And so like, in that creative space, and like, the woman knowing that when they're together, but thinking that she can mold him, like into this person who is going to be the high earner. And over time, building resentment of, I'm tired of being the primary breadwinner. Like, why don't you just, like you need to just, and it's like, this is who this person always has been. And, I'm saying that about women, but the same thing can happen, on the other side too, but I think like, uh, there's that part of the lack of honesty too, in terms of like really looking and seeing the person who you're choosing. Like, do you actually really see them for who they are? And is who they are really aligned with who you want to be with and the type of relationship that you're looking for?
Yeah. And I see that a lot too. And with that dynamics, so with that dynamic is definitely this, I also think that is also like a, it's this perpetual idea of being a go-getter and proving and working hard.
Yes.
And so because not that you're blinded by that, but
Yeah.
this your discernment on taking a beat and slowing
Mm-hmm.
down is gone. And
Yes.
so you're so used to taking on so much that when a partner is not taking on anything, that you kind of just like, it's part of your narrative. Like, well, I have to do everything anyway. It goes back to the
Right.
martyrdom conversation. But but I have to
Yes.
do everything anyway, so let me do it. But then there's a point where you get exhausted. You start to feel burned
Right.
out and you're wanting
Exactly.
more. However, I think that the partners that we choose are the deepest reflection of our own self love.
I, yes. Yes. Say that again, for the people in the back.
Our partner that we choose is the deepest reflection of our own self love.
Yeah.
So, if you are constantly working, overworking yourself, and you have a
Hmm.
partner that maybe is just, like you said, kind of cool, kind of calm, collect, like just doing what needs to be done, not in a
Right.
space of having to do extra, not in the space of wanting to do more, just really
Hmm.
content, or the other partner would, or could be used to other people serving them.
That too. That too.
So choosing a partner like that is subconsciously natural,
Yeah.
because you subconsciously already believe that you need to do everything.
Yes.
But consciously, from day to day, you're exhausted and like, why am I doing everything? Not
Hmm.
paying attention to the self awareness of, I typically do everything because there's a part of me that believes I need to prove. There's a part of me that
Hmm.
believes I need to be the best or whatever, or I need to be in
Right.
control or all of that. And so then what happens is that they choose that partner that reflects that, but then they get exhausted and then they get upset because the roles and responsibilities may have increased.
Right. And there was never a true discussion, an honest discussion about expectations around that. Yeah.
Right, because I'm going to say this. We live life in theory until life happens,
Yes.
right? Because if you're like, oh yeah, you may have the conversation. Well, what do you think about who does what for the kids? And you're like, yeah,
Hmm.
I'll do this, I'll do that. And you're like, okay, cool. Then the kids come, and then you're exhausted, and then work
Right.
is asking a lot of you. A family emergency happens, and nobody's sticking to the plan because what we think we will do is different a lot of times based on what we naturally will do.
Right.
And so, going to your point is, if you are not honest about who you are, your habits,
Yes.
and who they are and their habits,
Yes.
you're going to fall into a trap of resentment,
Hmm.
disappointment, and everybody just trying to change everybody.
Yes. And I think this is why it's so important that which I think we are starting to move away from this, as a culture, but that we move away from treating a wedding like we've talked about before, as like a project to be managed,
Mm-hmm.
instead like that. That's why we created the premarital education program, is for that. You like that honesty, and even before getting to that point, being able to have that honest self-reflection of yourself and who your partner is. But I think choosing to intentionally open yourself up to that honesty, especially when you're in that point of like being engaged, you're happy, you're
Mm-hmm.
blissful, you're about to plan this event, which is a beautiful event, but it lasts 1 to 3 days, you know, um, and what,
Yeah.
yeah,
Because honestly speaking, I think that if more people were honest and aware about who they are and how they are, less people would get married.
I agree, especially, and I think that when they do, I think the intentionality would look different. I think the
Mm-hmm.
timing would look a lot different as well.
Yeah,
Um,
and I also believe that the wedding business would actually lose a lot of money because I think that people who are more intentional just about the commitment to each other, the wedding isn't like that big of a deal.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. And
A
it's interesting
hundred
because
percent.
research has shown the more you spend on the wedding, the more likely you are to get divorced.
Right. And what do
That's
you think that
interesting.
speaks to you? I think that's interesting too. What do you think that speaks to you?
I think so. Part of it, and I mean, not that I had a big wedding, but I think we had over 120 guests. One, because I have, my husband's Nigerian, so
Yeah, yeah, you
they
know.
came from all over the world to this wedding. So my little 50, I probably didn't even, we were supposed to do 50 people each. And I think I did about 20. I only got so many people in my life. I only have
It
so
was a
many
good
people in
time.
my
It was
life.
a good time too.
But I think that when you focus more on the image, you focus less on the inside part, which is the commitment to
Right.
each other. And granted, I am one for a big celebration. Like
Oh,
I love the idea of a big
yeah.
celebration.
I love a party.
Yeah, who doesn't,
A
right? Like,
party.
yes. However, the more money you spend means that there's this subconscious presentation of look at what we have.
Hmm.
And a lot of times, based on financial reports, is a lot of times that is like all debt.
Yes.
That's like credit card bills swiping for to pay for this big elaborate thing. Because
Right.
granted, we are not all of us are not part of that 1%. So everyday people are
Hmm.
spending a lot of money for this big elaborate event
Yeah.
to
But the
celebrate
average is like 37,000, right? I
yeah, it's
think
in
that,
yeah.
yeah.
So to show this, like, celebrate this commitment. However, during that whole process, they have not focused on building up the ability to manage the commitment.
Yes. And I don't know. And so I'm saying it now for everyone listening that it takes skills, just like anything else. Like to maintain your job, it requires a skill set. Skill
Mm-hmm.
sets are developed over time intentionally. To maintain fitness goals, it takes skills that are built over time intentionally. To maintain a commitment takes relationship skills that are built intentionally. And it doesn't just come, it's not just intrinsic, it takes skills that we all have the opportunity to build if we invest, the time to build them.
Yeah, yeah. So why do you think that people are spending so much on weddings, but not
Less
lasting
on them.
as long as they're as long as the bill is paid
Will
for?
last. No, I think it's similar to what you said, more focus on the appearance. I think the aesthetic.
Mm,
Like we love a good aesthetic, and don't get me wrong, like I like things that are aesthetically pleasing, but I do think that you know, especially in the US, I don't know, I just think that our culture, which is intentional, I think that the focus in many things tends to be more so on the outward than the internal,
mm-hmm.
and a lot of things like, um, and so I think that that also includes wedding, like, because I'm thinking about like, more likely to drop a certain amount of money on, designer bags, designer shoes, that kind of thing, versus like things to develop the inner self-awareness, thinking like um, therapy or wellness, which again, I do think there's a shift that is happening. So thankfully, I think there's starting to be that shift. But I think the same thing with weddings, like the pretty picture, the storybook wedding. Um, but I think also too, there's sometimes the not knowing that it is relationship skills that are required. I think it's also that lack of mm, not just self-awareness, but a lack of investigating where do my expectations around marriage come from?
Mm-hmm.
What do like what do I want this to look like and why? And who taught me, that? Where did I internalize these things? Just a lack of investigation, deeper investigation, um, in that way, I
Yeah.
think contributes to that.
Yeah, it is. I think it's the love thing. I think that, and granted, I am
Yes.
all for love. It's in my name. I
Yeah.
believe I
Yeah.
embody the idea of love, and the
Hmm.
idea of love being something that is an act that is shown through care, respect, support, all of that. I think that because people are caught up in the like, oh, we love each other, we'll be okay,
Hmm.
like we'll figure it out, we'll navigate it. I think that's the part that blinds folks to needing the skills because we love each other.
Yeah, and I think too, that's a good point because I think it's that part. And then on the flip side, like I hear all like these axioms all the time of like love is not enough, or marriage takes work. And so then, but nobody until us talks about talks about what does that actually mean? Like, and I do think we should talk more about love and, how that, so I want to circle back to that. But like, um, what does it mean when we say love is not enough? What does it mean when we say marriages take work? What is this work, you know,
Hmm.
that it takes? And I think um, that not having that spelled out, I also think, you know, plays a role too, because they're just embedded in our minds until then we're faced with it and it's like, oh, wait, is this the work they're talking about?
Hmm.
you know yeah.
It reminds me of the when we had Uncle Bobby, your uncle, look at our contract, or his
Yes.
advice to you was like, make sure you get a contract. It's better to get
Yes.
it now because you care
Yes.
about it. The it's good now, right? Like you like
Yes.
each other now,
Right.
and it kind of reminds me of that. Like, yeah, you love each other now. Like you're not. There's no
Hmm.
resentment. I mean, and granted, there are some couples that they
Hmm.
have gone through the ringer and they're still going to go through with the wedding. Uh,
Hmm.
but but yeah, right now we like each other now, so why do we need to focus on the problems, or or will
Right.
love will get us through it, right? Like that's the
Hmm.
love is not enough thing, because you figure out that love is not will not just get you through the resentment, the frustration,
Mm-mm.
the misunderstandings, the lack of
Hmm.
skills, the lack of self-awareness,
Hmm.
right? Like the hyper independence, the hyper
Hmm.
avoidance, right? Like love won't get you through those in the sense that what we think love is.
Right. And what do you think, how do you think we define love in the Western sense of the word?
I think the Western way, or Eurocentric way that we all have adopted on this side of the earth,
Hmm.
I think love is very self centered.
Yeah.
I think it is a catering to oneself, like
Hmm.
expecting one to cater to you, expecting one to serve you. And then
Hmm.
also, and people are going to probably push back on this, even when it's like, oh, I love my kids, I'll do anything for them. And then all the things that they
Hmm.
are willing to do are the things that they themselves are willing to do, not what their
Right.
kid necessarily needs from them or is
Yes.
asking of them.
Hmm.
So I
Many
think,
millennials can attest to that.
yeah. And so I think that love is one of those things that it has an experiential definition that is
Hmm.
individualistic.
Yeah.
And then, right, even the definition of love in itself is very like vague and it's up
Hmm.
for interpretation. Uh, but however, I do, after reading Bell Hooks, the
Yes.
Salvation of Black Love,
Yeah.
I think it matches just what I believe love to be. It's just this act
Hmm.
of this intrinsic act of love, of like care, respect, support,
Hmm.
and not even acceptance, but like respecting someone's belonging
Hmm.
in the space with you. So, but that's how I envision it, and
Yeah.
that's how I see it. But granted, I kind of don't use the word that much anymore. Not because I don't
Hmm.
believe in it, but because I know what it is. I try to like revere it a little bit more, respect it a little bit
Yeah.
more by just tossing it out there.
100%. Uh, I agree with that. And I think sometimes we confuse love for infatuation too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, of like, oh, I'm so obsessed with this person, and they're obsessed with me too. And, which, great. Be be obsessed with your person. But like that's not always going to be there. Sometimes they're going to piss you off.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to be obsessed with them in that moment. What do you do then? And I think that like uh even I have this exercise with um when I'm working with clients around dating coaching, where I'll have them create like a pyramid. And so on the bottom of the pyramid will be characteristics that they're looking for in a person. The middle is sort of like lifestyle attributes, like loves to travel, like
Mm-hmm.
that kind of, thing. And then the top is their physical attributes like, low cut Caesar with a deep wave, whatever you want. So
Okay,
that's what,
Beyonce.
right. And so um, I have them go through that, and it's interesting because I remember um, sometimes when doing that, the hardest part for folks to think of is that bottom tier of the characteristics. A lot of times, those will get confused either for the top or for the middle of like, oh, I want them to be funny. And I'm like, I know a lot of funny people who I don't think you want to be in relationship with,
Right.
like, or, well, like I want them to communicate well. What does that mean? Like what has your communication looked like in previous relationships as well? Like
Mm-hmm.
that sort of thing, to being able to get to actual like core values of, oh, I want someone who has integrity because that's really how I live my life. Like I really try to, match my inside with my outside. Or I want someone who um, uh, can isn't afraid to share their emotions and express them because that's something that I value, and I would want to co-create a relationship with someone who can share that value. Like, and so it's interesting to see that that can be sometimes the hardest part, and it makes me think of the conversation of how we define love and how it to me does get like conflated with infatuation.
Yeah.
Um,
And the interesting thing is that we went goes back to that list that I was telling you about, like that we
yeah,
tend to do, and it's because we think that these characteristics are what we love, right? What we love
right.
about a person, but not about, if I share this space with a person
Mm-hmm.
forever,
Right.
what behaviors would I not be
Right.
okay with?
Exactly.
And so it's interesting because I remember, I don't, so there's this, we're just going to use an example where someone says, I want someone who is ambitious.
Mm-hmm.
And if you describe an ambitious person, guess what they're not going to have enough of?
Time.
Time. So if you value time,
Mm-hmm.
time spent, time together, time and attention,
Right.
if you value that, granted, having an ambitious partner sounds great because of the
Right.
outcome.
Exactly.
However, while you're in it, creating the outcome, that partner is going to have less time for you
Oh
if you are a
man.
person who values time spent together.
Yes, and how that may show up then is if you value time spent together, maybe you have expectations of what that time looks like, and so maybe it's I want these dates, like I want to feel prioritized, like all
Mm-hmm.
those things. To your point, if you want someone who is ambitious, their number one priority is not going to be you. And that, like, that has to be okay. Not to say that there aren't going to be times when they're going to prioritize, but you want someone who's ambitious. They're prioritizing their ambition, whatever that
Mm-hmm.
may be. And that may mean that at times you may feel like they're not paying attention to you. So, do you really want someone who's ambitious? Can you really, like be that person? Or do we need to think about, do we need that self-honesty
Mm-hmm.
of what is it that you're actually really looking
What
for?
is it that you're asking for? You're really asking
Hmm.
for, or what is it about time spent? Like, what does your time spent together actually look like in reality, right? Like, is it,
Right.
not just the date nights, but what is time spent at home looking like? What is time
Exactly.
spent when you are interacting with each other? What does that look like? And
Hmm.
that, if anything, you can have a conversation with that. Like, if you do want someone who is ambitious, and you do meet someone who is ambitious, and you're developing and building something, and instead of saying you work too much, you don't think of me,
Right.
you could have an honest conversation and say, I love that you work a lot, and
Right.
when we spend time together, this is what I would like to experience. Is this something you can
Right.
do, or you are willing to
Right.
do, you have the capacity to do?
Right. And
Because
then,
mm,
oh, go ahead.
no,
No,
go.
go ahead. I was gonna say, and then being open to hearing that the answer might be no. Like, I'm thinking, what if they're in the middle of building a business? What if they're in the middle of, working towards a promotion? The answer could be no, not right now, but maybe, how
Mm-hmm.
about if we try this for now? And then after we get, after I can go over this, whatever it is, then let's revisit and reconfigure. And
Yeah.
then that's, you know,
Yeah. I mean, that just reminds me of, like, I have all on my list is someone who is intelligent, and someone
yeah,
who perseveres, and someone who, like, is ambitious. And I
yeah,
have that, and when I tell you, like, you're like, oh, dang. Someone who is smart, guess what? They always have knowledge. They're going to always have information.
yeah,
All, like, you got to stay intelligent. I mean, and granted, I am
yeah,
intelligent,
you
but
are.
you got to stay informed,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you have to constantly stay informed, which is a value of mine, of constantly growing and learning new things.
Yes.
But a person who maybe may not value that, but value someone who is intelligent, or says, I
Right.
like somebody smart. Well, with somebody smart,
Exactly.
you got to be smart too.
You do. And that's actually when I talk about the pyramid exercise,
Mm-hmm.
that's exactly that is getting to the values. And I feel like
Mm-hmm.
we do a good job of that too, like in the premarital um, process of in our program of what are the actual values underneath of what you're
Yeah.
trying to co-create because
Yeah.
exactly that.
Because
Like,
you will have to uphold that, and it will have to be true and natural to you, just like it's true
right,
and natural to that person. Because
exactly.
even I value perseverance. In my mind, like, when life gets hard, you're able to push through
Yeah.
and navigate. Well, I have someone who will persevere even when they are tired and they want to not work out. And I'm
Right.
like, what? We're on vacation? Or no, push, persevere. Like, dang, okay, right? Like,
Right.
I literally got everything that I asked for, but and what it does is it makes you realize why did you ask for those things, and
Mm.
is what
Is
is
it
what
speaking to?
value are you like speaking to, like honoring of
Yeah.
your own. And yeah, my husband, he works a lot, and there are times when family plans have to shift because of just the
Yeah.
demand of his responsibilities and his roles, that we're like, yeah, let's go to the movies, and he's like, work has called, I need to go, and I know it's not planned, but it called. Then the last thing you need to do is pout, like, because you
Right.
chose someone who is ambitious, you chose someone who is a leader, you chose someone who has
Right.
roles and responsibilities, and not gonna let it up.
Right.
And so you have to, in essence, like you said, be honest. Because if I was the type of person, like, which granted, keeping your word is very important to me, but that would have to
Yeah.
pivot, because it's like
Right.
you
That.
have to
Yeah.
work.
Right. Yeah.
And so I'm okay with that. Like, I'm okay with bending on keeping your
Yeah.
word, because I understand how important your career is, and is important to us as a whole, because of the fact that
Right.
you thrive on being in this position. This is an important role to you.
Yeah.
Why take that away? Why complain about it?
Right. And even that, I think, is like that, because I know we talked before about seeing beyond yourself. Like that is a perfect example of that, which is more so how when I think about what love really is, I think that that's one of the main tenets to me, is being able to see beyond yourself to how can we as a whole thrive? Like how can we collectively thrive?
Yeah.
Not what are you doing for me to make me happy?
Yeah. And I mean, granted, there have been moments where I've had to learn, because, like I said, we talked about
Yeah.
this before, is where I come from a very individualistic family, and that's not how my husband was raised.
Hmm.
And so to shift that mindset, what is sometimes is a challenge, where it's like, wait, but you said this, and this is how what you're doing is impacting me. And granted, it's like,
Yeah.
this is not like harmful stuff. This is like time
Yeah.
spent, or you know, things that needed to pivot, and I only thought about myself in that moment and how it was going to impact me, rather than how is it impacting the person who has to do it, and how is it impacting
Right.
the whole, as a whole. It was only like, oh
Yeah.
shoot, this is an inconvenience to me,
Right.
not, wow, this is an inconvenience to you and to the whole family.
Yeah.
So it's so important, like you said, it is so important to have that mindset of service to the whole, rather than how is love serving just me.
Yeah. And I think it's like even what you described, I feel like that's like a natural part of the growth process, because I really do think that marriage is an amazing opportunity for both people to grow if you take it, and growth isn't bad. At least, I mean, that's coming from someone who values growth. I value growth. Like and so I think like that process um is part of it, and it's being able to like like you did, like have that honest self-reflection, and then be willing to like work through all the things so that you can like pivot when needed, speak when needed, but like that you're able to like even in going through that process is then you choosing the benefit of the whole, because you're like, okay, let me look at my thing, and okay, let me figure out my self-reflection, and then figure out how can we navigate this? How can I navigate this? And yeah.
Yeah, I just as you said that, what came up for me is how thinking of the collective makes you more self-aware, Whereas thinking of your individual self actually it
It blinds you.
deflects. Yeah, it
Yes.
like deflects every like the attention, the inner you. And it
Yes.
blinds you from seeing yourself, and it also
Yes.
blinds others from seeing your inner you, like your true self.
Mm-hmm.
It more so kind of pacifies other things about you that's not your
Yes.
true self. I don't have the words on my like I don't have the words to kind of explain, but it just thinks what comes up for me is just it lacks self you lack self-awareness when you only think of yourself, which
Mm-hmm.
people would think that that's actually the opposite. But when you want others to focus on you, that means you are not focusing on yourself and you're not paying attention
Mm-hmm.
to where you are inside.
Yeah. And that is interesting because number one, I definitely agree with that. Um, and I think part of it too is when you are focused on the collective, there's um, an openness and a willingness to then be accountable to your actions, how your actions affect the collective, how you're affected by the collective. Like there's a sense of personal responsibility and being able to sort through what is my responsibility to own, what isn't mine to own, like, and, maybe this is just something that I accept, or maybe I choose not to accept it, whatever it is. But either way, there's this personal responsibility that's present versus when the focus is only on you, then everyone else kind of becomes sort of a threat or an enemy of like, there's a lot of blame, a lot of assumptions are made, a lot of projecting, and not a lot of like inner honesty and evaluation, investigation, into, yeah.
Yeah, and I think though when we choose relationships, that this goes back to my point is that who we choose to be in relationship is the deepest reflection of the truest reflection of our self love. Is because
Yeah.
if you are not self aware, I don't you cannot possibly have self love.
Mm-mm.
You might have arrogance, you might
Mm-hmm.
have a false self esteem, right? Like you
Mm-hmm.
might have some sort of like you might have conceit. But what
Mm-hmm.
you don't have is true self esteem and true self love. Because self
Yeah.
love, going back to the definition of like how I define love, is a care, a support, a respect. And when you are demanding and commanding respect, there's a part of you that don't you lack that respect in yourself, all right? Or you're
Yes.
demanding and commanding
Mm-hmm.
attention. That means that there's the air. But there's we're gonna have to edit that part out.
No worries.
But there's a part of you that you don't have that for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And when you don't have that for yourself, then you're gonna want that from others.
Yes, absolutely. And it like, and too, I think it even shows that there's probably a part of you that doesn't believe that you're actually worthy of it.
Mm.
Um, so now your ego, is trying to demand it, knowing that deep down you don't even think that you deserve it.
That's such an interesting experience. Even as a therapist, I still don't understand that experience of not being worthy, not
Hmm.
being lovable, any of those things. And granted, I'm have far from like a grand life or anything like that or upbringing. But I still don't understand that feeling, even as a
Yeah.
therapist, when I'm in space holding that
Hmm.
with the client. To It's one thing to hold it and to like just be there and hold it
Hmm.
and be
Like
understanding that
empathy.
it,
Yeah.
yeah, like to be understanding that it, how one experiences it from their
Hmm.
lens. But to be empathetic, you have to know what that feels like. You have to experience that. And I,
Yeah.
not to say that I lack empathy for it, but I do have compassion for it,
Yeah.
because it's like, wow, for you to feel unworthy or you to experience love. And I know it just kind of got off, but like that feeling, which is kind of,
Yeah.
maybe I think that goes back to how I care of my like level of self-love, is that
Yeah.
I don't experience being unloved or unlovable.
Right.
And so a lot of people do
Yeah.
experience that, which is
No, a
sad.
hundred percent. Yeah, it is that I feel like, because even I think for myself, I went through, I would say probably a time, it was probably my like teen years into my early 20s where I did feel that. And it's not that, because I'm like definitely, very loved by my family. I mean, we have our stuff, but, I think, uh, but I think that what it was for me was a combination of things. I think one, I I grew up in a lot of spaces, particularly in high school and college, where there weren't a lot of Black people, and so I think I internalized that like um, there's just always this. I mean, now I understand, that it was this hypervigilance and like all of the gaslighting that we talked about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
But at the time, I think I had internalized it as something being wrong with me,
Mm.
and and so then like I think that then made me question my lovability. And then also in my family, we didn't work through, I hadn't seen conflict be worked through. So it's like either you yell at each other and then you're just expected to get over it, or you cut people off.
Mm.
Like, there's no even attempt at reconciliation. And so I think then that created for me this thing where I felt like, oh, I can't let people actually see the real me, because what if we have conflict and then that's it, like that's the end, And so I think, it took time to work through that. And like, I had some really great healing experiences and relationships where I was able to see, oh, that's not necessarily, like that is not necessarily the case. And then also as I also reclaimed my identity, from these spaces that had me in a chokehold. I was like, wait a minute, I let y'all convince me,
Right.
and so, but I can understand, like, I feel like more often than not, the reasons that people have those feelings tends to come from external sources that have just been internalized. Um, and then I even think of that as like the inner critic. Like I don't have an inner critic
Mm.
anymore. But like I used to. But like it was like, oh, that inner critic was never my voice. Like it was these other voices that I internalized and I didn't even sort through. And so now, like after taking time to silence them, I'm like, yeah, I don't have an inner critic. Now I may be like, oh, okay. Like there's going to be opportunities for growth where I see in myself where I'm like,
Mm.
did I need this? I didn't need to say that. Okay, I can do better next time, like, or it's going to be like, okay, that wasn't your full potential here. What blocked you in that moment? You know what I mean? But it's not going to be like, oh, you're this or you're that.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I don't have an inner critic like that either. I don't. I don't think I've ever from my memory, I don't think I have an inner critic that's gonna like that criticize. I think that's why I'm sensitive to criticism, because I don't
Yeah.
criticize myself.
That
I'm
makes
very
sense.
sensitive to criticism. Uh, it is kind of like on the pride part. Like, wait a minute, who are you to critique? But it's shifted now where I'm open to criticism depending
Yeah,
on the critiquer.
that makes sense.
However, I don't criticize myself because I don't think it's fair. I think that I lovingly correct myself, or sometimes I playfully correct, like, girl, what were you thinking? Right?
Yeah.
Like, you could have done this a little bit better. But I think that going back to, like, just playing into the role of, like, self-love and your partners, is that those are the things that you look for
Right.
when partnering with someone, right? Like this, like, one, being self-aware of worthiness, lovableness, all of that, and looking out for behaviors that you may have that try to get that externalized, you know, value, that externalized love and care, rather than the internal, and finding someone who complements that based on who they are, not based on their character that you have blindly, like, rose-colored rainbow glasses painted them to be,
right?
but who they are values-wise. Because I think a lot of couples do have talks like, yeah, what type of person are you? What do you value? But then when they behave a certain way, they're the rose-colored glass, like, oh no, that's not who they really are. But no, like, that's really who they are.
Right. You know what just hit me with you saying that too? Because I'm like, when we talk about this self-love piece, because I think about, like, for me, even, like, that was a part of my journey, was getting to that place where I shed that part of me that, like, didn't believe that I was lovable, and was able to reclaim and be like, wait, no, I am, and show myself love in those ways. And that did shift, like, how I viewed relationships, who I chose, and like, how I show up as well. But then I'm thinking now, and I'm like, I also think that this can be why um, sometimes couples can struggle with that self-honesty, even in who they're looking for, because when you don't have that self-love, then you are looking for someone to fill those spaces for you. And so you're even externalizing your self-love. You're trying to find the partner who's going to give you those things, not necessarily always thinking about how you're going to show them love,
Right.
like, and then when that doesn't happen, and you still feel lonely, or you still feel like, you're not deserving of these things, like, then that also, I think, can cause a lot of resentment, because it's like, you're not making me happy. You were supposed to make me happy.
I think the most powerful statement that I ever learned was, no one is responsible for your happiness but you.
Yeah.
That, and I didn't learn that in grad school.
Yeah.
The hard knock life of, the hard knock, what is the school of hard knocks? Life taught me that one. You are not only you are responsible. No one else is responsible for your happiness. And learning that, I think that also built up my, like, ability to not criticize myself, my ability to not look at everything in such a negative way. Because that, just being married, so being a single person, and you want to, and no one's there to make you happy. You are just indulging in things. You indulge more into things to make, quote unquote, to make you happy. When you are in partnership, you use that partner to make you happy. You put that responsibility on them. But and that can cause a lot of tension, because that's a big responsibility to put on someone.
The pressure, like, even hearing you say that, I'm like, oh, like, the pressure.
Yeah, it's like,
I'm responsible for your happiness.
Yeah, it's like entertaining a baby. Like, you know how entertained a baby wants to be? A toddler, a child, they want to be entertained 24/7.
Always.
So it's the same thing. So you want someone to be responsible for, because everybody wants to be happy 24/7.
Right.
We want to have happy dreams. We want to have happy sleep. We want to have happy lunch, dinner, right? Like, so to put that responsibility on someone else is so big. and it will negatively impact your relationship because of the amount of pressure and the fact that you will never be satisfied, because happiness is so short-lived.
Literally, like,
It's crazy. I had to explain it
yeah,
to my son. Like, happiness is like eating an ice cream cone. You eat it
yes,
and you're feeling it and you're like, oh, this is the best ice cream, and then it's gone.
right. And maybe you
Joy,
realize you're lactose intolerant. That
right?
adds even less, that takes away even more.
Right, and then but joy is that feeling that you
Yeah,
get when you walk into the ice cream shop because you've
yes,
been wanting ice cream and you love ice
yes,
cream so much, and like
right,
smelling the waffle cone and smelling the
right,
cream. Like, that's the joy part.
yes,
Because that, I mean, granted, you'll leave the store, but you always remember that smell.
yes. No one can take that away from
No
you.
one can take
Like,
it away. But while
yeah.
you're licking the ice cream and stirring it up, and you're like, ah, da, 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 da,
And
da,
then
and
it's
then the ice
gone.
cream's gone, and then you're like, oh
Hmm.
man.
Right.
To put that responsibility on someone is so much pressure, and it's
Hmm.
sad to see someone who has to keep someone happy. And it goes back to your saying that you hate the happy wife, happy life thing.
Mm-mm.
You hate that statement. And I'm with you
Mm-mm.
too. I don't like it either. I don't like it either.
Mm-mm. I like, mm-mm. I hate that because I'm like, you know, no, there leaves no room that there's no room for both of you when
Hmm.
it's like when it's just that.
Yeah.
Like I think I've heard this, which is a little bit better. I'm like, we're getting closer. Like happy spouse, happy house, we're getting closer. I think but I think even just removing that expectation of happiness
Hmm.
altogether, and like yeah, yeah.
And
But it doesn't sound as fun,
yeah,
like
I it.
joyful spouse, a joyful house.
Oh, joyful
So,
spouse, joyful house. Okay, I get
you
it.
know.
Kind of, you know. But I read a book about happiness. It's called The Happiest Hour, and there's a researcher, and she's researching happiness in essence.
Mm,
But basically, her conclusion, or part of her premise, is that as we age, happiness looks different.
for sure.
And happiness, true, like the happiness that we're all searching for, actually is an internal experience
Exactly.
that
Yes.
really is around serving oneself.
Hmm.
So finding time to read a book, right?
Hmm.
Like doing the things for yourself that brings happiness to you. But I also think that it goes back to my belief that people are actually trying to search like a state of joy, which is, I think, in
Hmm.
order to experience joy, you have to be in a state of certainty.
Yes. Ooh. Yeah. Hmm.
And so, in that state of certainty, you can experience joy. Joy is going to come, and it's not going to be fleeting because you're going to always remember that moment. You're
Yeah.
going to always remember that moment. But there have been so many happy moments that you're not going to remember all of them because they come and go, they come and go, they come and go, and they change because what makes you happy now as a 30 something year old didn't make you happy as you probably thought it was boring. Yeah, I'm
Hmm.
pretty sure your 20 something year old probably thought your 30 something year old self was.
Oh,
I know my 20 something year old
I'm
self was
like,
like, girl, you're 42 and you were boring.
even just in my clothing choices, because I'm like 20s, I was bodycon, mini skirt, 6-inch stilettos, you feel me? Now, what makes me happy, even just in my clothing choices, is linens. I want to always look like you could place me on Martha's Vineyard or what is the wine, out in wine country.
So
I just want to be in linens, and linens make me happy. And that
that
would
is
have
so
been
funny.
boring to me.
I will say one thing that's always brought me joy was looking out in the water. I remember in like the eighth grade, we lived in Hawaii, and so where we lived on, we there was a canal, and then there was like the mountains, that, and it's not the Colorado Rocky Mountains. These are like green, luscious mountains.
Oh, I love
They were
that.
beautifully, like beautifully green. And so you would see the canal and you would see the water. And so I would like sit and like watch it. Now here I am, 42, and looking at the water in my backyard. This whole like alligator infested water. But I'm sitting there and I'm like looking at it and I'm enjoying it. So that is like, that's a joy, that's a peace.
Yes.
But what brings me happiness now is, I don't even know, like watching a good movie while I'm cooking. Whereas the 20-year-old me would be like, no, we're not cooking. We're going to go find a restaurant. We're going to get dolled up. We're going to go to a restaurant and you're not cooking any of that. Like, no. But, but watching a good show and cooking a meal actually does, I in that moment, I'm happy. Don't nobody bother me.
No, 100%. That's like my pot of tea in the mornings, just with silence. I love that. And that was not, and even too, because water brings me joy too. I love water. Like, it brings me a lot of joy. But I know something that used to make me happy was constantly being around people. I mean, I would stack social engagements with like 15 minutes in between, which was just enough time to, I don't know. I'm not even that much of an extrovert. I don't know how.
I don't even think
I'm an extrovert.
Yeah. And that used to bring me happiness too, just always being with folks. Go. Hanging. And now I will stay in the house all day.
Look, I think, one social engagement a month.
But and that's the thing. Even I can see it in my marriage. Like the things we used to do when we were younger, when we were dating, we don't do those things. And I'm not saying it in a bad, like they don't bring us the happiness now
that they used to at that time.
What brings us happiness now is like us sitting on the couch and laughing and joking, like at the TV or at something that we heard or something like that. Whereas we used to like go to a restaurant, and my husband, he doesn't even like going out to eat. That was something that he like did because I enjoyed it.
You enjoy,
going out to eat, going to this, doing this thing. No, that's not what he wants. He wants to just stay in the house, and I'm like that too now because. And I was telling my son this. I don't want to be outside. Mosquitoes are out there.
And that's those mosquitoes.
People are out there, and it's a lot. But it goes back to again, marriage. In marriage, your expectations of happiness and joy.
Right.
What brought you joy in the beginning will always bring you joy. I think that there might be things that increase, but those happiness moments, they're just totally different. And so even in a relationship, so if you're asking for something to bring you for someone to bring you happiness, and they're like, wait, didn't just a few years ago you wanted this and I was doing that. Right. Now this doesn't bring you happiness. So
and now it's not enough.
Now it's not enough.
Because it will never be enough.
It will never, because we always seek, that's just part of our human brain, is to always seek some sort of like good feeling.
Yeah.
That's why medicine exists. That's why, that's naturally why medicine exists, because we're like, oh, I feel bad. We need something to take this away, make it better. I don't want to die.
Right.
So the brain's like, well, how do we find comfort?
Right.
So, it's natural. However, people need to take responsibility for their own happiness so that it won't negatively impact. Because even if you find your own happiness in your relationship gets better because you're taking some pressure off of the person to be responsible for something they have no control over.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I feel like we should end there. We're done. Because I'm like,
I'm with you. I am with you. All right. Well, we're going to end here on that note. So the lesson.
Yeah.
Be responsible for your own happiness.
Yes.
That's it.
And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so you can get more of these videos.
Yes, that too. That too.